Well, in the book, in the final chapter, what I looked at were a number of new concepts. One of the most important one was a thing we call Poised Strategy, which I've mentioned earlier on. Poised Strategy was based on work by Davenport et al. In 2006, and Poised Strategy is quite simply the need for organizations to have, as I said before, multiple business models, not just a single business model. So you have to have a business model for the current environment and a new developing business model to adapt that, to extend it, but also a new business model which will ultimately just disrupt your original business. And also in the book I refer to, this is a big marketing tool for many of the leading strategy firms, and I give examples in the book. The Boston Consulting Group, Insight, and also Bain Consulting have a number of products in this area. Bain refer to what they call Engine 1 and Engine 2. Engine 1 is your current business. You exploit that, you develop it as far as you can, and Engine 2 is the future business. The Boston Consulting Group refer to it as corporate vitality, and they have an index with 17 variables which they measure in terms of corporate vitality is basically the ability of the organization to sustain its advantage going forward using a mixture of different business models. And Insights have a thing called dual transformation. And this is where you have, again, dual business models in order to sustain the business. So going forward, organizations have to be highly flexible and resourceful. So what this means is strategy is going to get more complex. It's not going to become less important, it's going to become more important, and it's going to be more closely linked to business models as well. Also, what I did was look at, again, this was a work by the Boston Consulting Group called Your Strategy Needs a Strategy. And this looked at the contingency approach to strategy. So again, the organizations won't have a single strategy necessarily, they'll have several strategies. And the most appropriate strategy will be contingent upon the environment in which the organization is competing. So it's how unpredictable is the environment, how malleable is the environment, and how harsh is that environment. And this leads into a number of different strategies. So an organization may have several strategies for several different environments, particularly if it's a large organization. So strategy is moving in that direction, and it will continue to be much more innovation driven. And as we mentioned earlier in the book, it will be definitely one of the key debating points. And I mentioned this briefly. Chris Anderson referred to the death of theory. We discussed this earlier on, didn't we? What Anderson meant was that in an era of high levels of big data, and if we move to artificial intelligence, we could come to a point whereby we know so much about our environment and our customers that we're able to actually start predicting it again. So whether in years to come, and if we ever do a second edition of this book, we may be looking at in the future maybe a return back to a classical approach where we can forecast and predict the environment. But that's an awful long way away, and it will require artificial intelligence.